team of the bunch. It's a massive opportunity for the South Carolina Gamecocks, and it's not going to be easy. We talked about the environment at Death Valley. We've talked about this defense, but the coordinator spoke yesterday, and one thing that I'm glad was asked to Mike Shula, was not able to participate in this one due to the travel schedule, but he was asked about teams maybe covering on the defensive side of the ball South Carolina's offense a little differently. We mentioned countless times this year about what Nick Harbor did in that first game against Virginia Tech, where they busted the Hokies over the top with a 64-yard touchdown pass. And we haven't really seen that type of down-the-field shots to Nick Harbor, and I think we've kind of hypothesized that teams are making more of a concerted effort to make sure Nick Harbor doesn't put him on a highlight reel. Clark Lee was vocal about that when talking to Cole Kubelik in the SEC Network broadcast during the South Carolina and Vanderbilt game. But is there a lot of truth to that? Are our teams defensively playing South Carolina different? Are the coverages different? This will be cut 6, Jen. Mike Shula was asked that yesterday, and here was his response.
I mean, it's even in that game, teams they play him a little bit softer, but he's also been challenged too in press coverage. That was really the one time, if I remember correctly, I think that was the one time that they actually did come up and press him in that first game. But yeah, no, he's they're playing him a little bit softer. Yeah, I mean, we get that, and he gets that, and just the things we're working on with him are just, like a lot of other guys, just being real precise with your routes, being in the right spot on time, and making adjustments on the run, which happens probably 75% of the time.
So that was Mike Shula's assessment, saying they play Nick Harbor a little bit softer in the passing game. And I don't blame opposing defensive coordinators. I think Blake Baker's going to do a whole lot of that on Saturday, even though there may be some instances where he feels good enough with cornerback Mansour Delane, who has played himself really into first-round draft pick type conversations and has been one of the most impactful transfers of anybody in college football this season. But Preston, you listen to that cut right there. You listen to Mike Shula kind of assess how defenses are changing the way they maybe approach South Carolina's pass game with Nick Harbor specifically. And that leads me to want to ask this. Is there a counterpunch that this offense can use to still get Nick Harbor involved, even if defenses are making more of a concerted effort to make sure that they're not getting beaten with that massively deep passing play?
Yes, there is a counterpunch, but I would always say first and foremost, throw your first punch first. Make them stop the first punch. Even if they're playing softer, even if they're doing all the things, throw your first punch and then throw your – don't go into again thinking, we got to counterpunch this. Throw your first punch first. When they stop that, then you come back to Vandrevius Jacobs underneath. You come back to Mo Brown underneath. You come back to your tight end game underneath. You come back to those things softening up. But I will not say, they're playing us soft. Let's concede that just because that's what they're doing. No, make them stop it first.
And with this offense too, and maybe what form does that look like? Mostly, we've seen how good the play action game has been. Do you maybe wrinkle in a little bit of play action and then take a shot deep? And do you do it? You alluded to maybe doing it a little earlier in the game. How early, if you're Mike Shula in a game like this on the road, how early do you try to maybe go for that type of explosive play in an environment that is going to be otherworldly hostile?
Yeah, there's something that you might want to have in your early scripts, maybe first or second drives. Say if you have success on a first or second down, you want to try something early just to see how they're playing with you. Because, again, just because they're playing soft against other teams, what does that have to do with the way they're going to play us? Have they faced somebody as fast and as big and as with that deep fieldability that Nick Harbor has? I would say no. So try them, and then you see how they adjust from there. But I would say don't throw away what you are attempting to do just because you've seen them doing some other things to other teams.
And part of me thinks one of the ways that you can set that up is if you I almost hate using the term establish the run because I feel like it is just one of those classic football buzzwords, right? It's like when I'm talking to Mira about, football and like what are buzzwords you can use in casual conversation. This team can't run the ball, or they are running the ball really well. they were bad on third down or good on third down, or when you're watching a game and if you're with in a group of people, you can say, oh, this is a big third down here. It's going to be applicable every single time. Establish the run is one of those things, right? You can just be like, oh, they need to establish the run here. I almost hate using that as a cliche, but so I'm going to kind of mold this a little bit. Do you establish Lenora Sellers on the ground just to be able to make that defense more cognizant and maybe see if you can coax them into loading the box and maybe moving safeties up a little bit?
Absolutely. If you can run the ball early and make them play the numbers game, walk a safety into the box, maybe you'll get some one-on-one coverage. But also, back to one of your points, Elijah, if they're going to play you soft, then you can take the early screen game. You can take the early short game. You can take the slants. You can take the outs. Maybe you throw them out of them playing those soft, because there's nothing more frustrating as a fan than to watch a 7-yard out get completed in front of your cornerback on repeat. That is immensely frustrating as a fan, because you're going to guard him, play him.
Somebody guard that guy.
Right. And if they're content with just sitting back and letting you take 7-8 yard hitches, slants, all those types of things, then you do it until they don't, and then you go deep on them.
And that might be something hopefully we get to see a couple of those deep shots, especially when you're going to be, again, in a string of games where it's 5 straight against teams that at least in the second Saturday of October are all within the AP top 11. It's probably not all going to shake out that way, but at the time, 5 straight games against top 11 teams, a little bit of risk-taking might be something that is on the menu. One thing Mike Shula does talk about a lot, and he's done it frequently throughout the season, is establishing a balanced offense. But to Mike Shula, what does that look like? And most importantly, how much does it really matter? We're going to hear from Mike Shula about that question, answer ourselves next here on the Early Game.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. Cracked windshield? No problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll work with the insurance company, take away the headache. You don't have to do anything but call the folks at Absolute Glass. Now, if you're at home, you're looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows or mirrors, and Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of that for you also. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
I-26 westbound before exit 91. We do have a report of an accident. So heading towards the upstate, kind of around the Chapin exit is where you'll find a slowdown I-26 westbound. And Mountain Vernon Church Road at Bookie Richardson Road up in the Chapin area. Also, you'll find an accident. And 74 is going to be the high today, a little bit cooler than it has been. Going to be kind of breezy out there. 73 tomorrow, 76 on Saturday. But starting off the morning, not too shabby. One more warmer morning because tomorrow morning it's going to be about 55 when we start the day. Windy, 68 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Times in football, head coaches, offensive coordinators will talk about balance in an offense. And for some, it looks different from one coach maybe to another, from one school of thought to another, what true balance in an offense looks like. And one thing I've kind of always wondered is how much does that really even matter? Well, Mike Shula, the offensive coordinator for the South Carolina Gamecocks, spoke yesterday as part of his weekly press availability, and he was asked about running a balanced offense. It's something he's talked about a lot this year in terms of what he wants the identity of this unit to be. And this will be cut one, Jen. Here was Mike Shula's response to that question.
To me, a balanced offense is good mix of running it, throwing it, and then there's other ways to where you try to attack defenses inside, outside, down the field, intermediate, short, all that kind of stuff.
And after 5 games, how much do you think, or how close do you guys think you're there toward your goal of being balanced?
Still working towards it.
Still working towards it. But when you break down what it was that he said, it was mixing run and pass, and also finally that's the one thing you hear with a lot of these coaches when they're talking about a balanced offense is just 50-50 split between running and throwing. But then I'm glad you elaborated a little bit, mixing in maybe downfield action, short passes, having a little bit of variety in your offense so you get a little bit better of a picture as to what that phrase actually means to him in relation maybe to this team. But Preston, he said they're still working on it. When you've watched this offense through 5 games, if you're giving a letter grade, what would you say is your letter grade on their ability to do just what he described?
Okay, I would say their letter grade, based on what he described, I would give it a B+, or maybe even an A. I would say that they have tried to do that. I would say that I don't like that, though. I do not want – yes, they have tried to accomplish that goal, but that does not make a great offense. Any great offense I know has a specific identity. I always bring up this same analogy, but you do not go to your favorite restaurant that does whatever to get everything. You go for a specific thing. And when you go to an offense and they're like, yeah, we do a little bit of whatever. What do you do well? Yeah, we do deep, we do long, we do short, we pass, we run. It's like, well, you probably don't do anything well. I would prefer that you do something well and maybe sprinkle in a little bit of these other things. But just trying to do a little bit of everything, that's not a recipe for success, in my opinion.
Which is what leads me to this question right here. And this is maybe more of a larger, grand football question, but it's very applicable to this team. Does balance even really matter? I don't think it does, right? I'm one of those, I'm in the Mike Leach school of thought of, yeah, well, if you just run the ball 50% of the time and pass it 50% of the time for the sake of doing it, it's 50% stupid, right? Like, do what your offense does well, get a variety of playmakers involved, and I'm a lot like you in that respect. There's some things that this team does pretty well on offense, but I think the frustration is that you're not doing it enough, and sometimes it does feel like you are doing some things on offense, like some inside zone, running on first and second down in a traditional run game perspective, that is what makes fans maybe a little more irked, because that stuff does not work very well, and sometimes you will put yourself behind the chains on third down and force some third and long situations when it almost feels like you don't necessarily have to.
Right, and you just attempting to do things. And when you talk about the inside zone, the outside zone, that's obviously the brainchild of the Shanahans. Yes, they might have run some gap scheme. Yes, they did a couple other things. But you know what the Denver Broncos with Terrell Davis and John Elway were going to run? Outside zone all the time. And that's the play. You know what Missouri ran? They had a couple of different run plays, yes. But you know what they did over and over again for 2 years in a row now?
Stretch.
That's what they did. You knew they were going to do that. And I keep saying, it's not only important that you know they're going to do it, it's important that the players know what they do and who they are. Good teams have an identity. I'm not sure that we've either accepted our identity. Maybe we know who we are. We just haven't looked in the mirror and said, you know what, this is who I am. We are a play-action team. It's time to grow up and accept who you are. Or we're trying to do something different, but the idea of just trying to be a little bit of everything, not great for your identity.
Especially when you're going into a game, or not just this game, but a stretch of games against really good defenses, right? We talk about how good LSU's defense is, and you look at the rest of the schedule. As good as LSU's defense is, I think you can conceivably say they are the third or fourth best defense you will face in the next 5 weeks. Third or fourth. Notice I did not say first or second, right? Alabama's defense is playing really well right now. Oklahoma's is one of the top 3 in the country. I think they're number 2 in the nation in terms of stop rate, right? That has been a dominant defense this season with incredibly good defensive minds. You look up and down at some of the defensive coordinators that you're facing. Blake Baker on Saturday, right? You're facing Pete Golding in a few weeks. You've got Brent Venables as a defensive mind coming into town. Kane Womack from Alabama. You've got some really good defensive minds who are just going to be able to pick up, like, they won't get duped by balance. But maybe you can out-execute them with a couple of things that you do really well. And I think if they stick with that game plan of just trying to establish a sense of balance, then you're going to end up just running yourself into a wall a few times for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, yes, run it just for the sake of doing it. For instance, I know we're talking college football here, but let's think about what just happened in the NFL, because those guys do stupid things too. We just saw the Philadelphia Eagles, who we know are known for running the ball. And last week, their coaches decided, you know what we want to do? We're going to throw the ball. We're only going to run the ball.
Receivers tweeting some really cryptic stuff. We need to satisfy his need.
Exactly. We have the best running back in the league, the best offensive line in the league, a quarterback who does not do a great job of handling the responsibility of shouldering the passing game. You know what we'll do? We'll run the ball 9 times just for the sake of being quote-unquote balanced. No, you idiots. Do what you do well. Doesn't matter what everybody else says. We come to the Philadelphia Eagles for the tush push. Saquon, that's what we want from you. We don't want those other things from you. So it's not just college coaches. It's the guys at the top level that do silly things also.
Now, earlier in the week, we broke down LSU from a number standpoint on a few key players. Well, we have a part 2. And there's more Garrett Nussmeier numbers, and there's also some numbers from a couple players that you might not have heard about, but are going to be big-time players in this game that South Carolina will need to key in on. We will break that matchup down by what the analytics tell us, because Old Man versus Analytics is next. Thank you, Jen. Not going to lie to you, folks. One of the best feelings in the world is walking around your house barefoot on nice, clean carpet. It's one of my favorite feelings on planet Earth. And without Zerorez, you're not maximizing that type of feeling, right? You're not maximizing how clean and comfortable your carpets can get. Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning does a fantastic job with a lot of things, but I love how they make my carpets nice, clean, and spotless, because I am a messy, messy boy, and I will mess that up frequently, but they are here to erase my mistakes because of the no soap lingering to attract dirt, that zero water technology, which is a non-toxic and safe for people, pets, and the planet. And right now, for the month of October, you can mention my name, Elijah Campbell, 1075 The Get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for only $119. 3 rooms for only $119. Don't wait. Schedule online at zerorezcolumbia.com today.
I-26 westbound before exit 91, a report of an accident there. Mount Vernon Church Road at Bookie Richardson Road, there's also a slowdown due to an earlier accident. A little bit different temperature-wise, 74 for the high today. It's going to be windy out there. Might be windy, so if you're heading out to the State Fair, yep, that started yesterday. Weather should be great for the next few days. 73 tomorrow, 76 on Saturday, and really pretty much the same on Sunday. So beautiful weather, beautiful fair weather. 68 and windy currently on 107.5 The Game.
2 days away from kickoff in Death Valley. And by virtue of LSU beating Clemson at the beginning of the year, we can say this is the real Death Valley. But what do some of the numbers say about this matchup? Some specific matchups within the matchup that can maybe define how this game goes down. And Preston Thorne, one of those players I don't think we maybe have talked about enough as it pertains to LSU's offense and what South Carolina has to do to keep them out of the end zone, is wide receiver Aaron Anderson. He's one of the more seasoned vets on this team from a wide receiver perspective because there are a lot of new additions. Nick Anderson came from Oklahoma. Berrien Brown came from Kentucky. Tight end Bauer Sharp also came from Oklahoma. There's a lot of new additions to this wide receiving core, but Aaron Anderson was a guy who was part of this passing attack last year and played in that game last season at Williams-Brice Stadium. Well, so far this year, Aaron Anderson has an ADOT, average depth of target, of 7 yards, right? Not much of a downfield guy. But he picks up 7 yards after the catch, each catch. 7 yards of yak, if you will. And actually, 175 of his 303 receiving yards this season have come after the catch, with over 87% of his snaps coming from the slot. The Anderson-Cisse matchup can maybe the one matchup on that side of the ball that can define this game.
I like this statistic. Everything we always talked about, running the ball, stopping the run, that's the cliche. And I always take it a step further with what Lou Holtz used to tell us, is that includes stopping the run after the catch. So what that means is that the team is tackling well. Yes, you may catch the ball, but when you do catch the ball, we will gather up in front of you and make a tackle and limit that 7-yard depth of target to not be a 14-yard game based on those numbers that you have. So that's going to be something that obviously we're going to have to key in on, because though last week was better against Kentucky, there is still that lingering ghost of 15 missed tackles average of 15 missed tackles from those 2 weeks prior. So that is something that I hadn't seen, but that is something that we probably need to pay attention to.
The tackling is such a big part of this, Preston, because yesterday when Jordan Kay was in studio, we were going through the stop rate numbers. And South Carolina is 84th nationally in stop rate. But I broke it down by game, what it was by game. And it's really like a Jekyll and Hyde type deal with this defense, right? Because in the games where the stop rate was really high, they look like they are a top 20 defensive team in the country. So to give you the breakdown real quick, on the season, the stop rate is 58.5%. And again, just percentage of drives that end in a punt, turnover, or turnover on downs. It was 78.2% against Virginia Tech. It was 72.7 against Virginia Tech, 83.3 against South Carolina State. That's 78.2 for those two games combined. And then against Vanderbilt, it was 44.4. It was 50% against Missouri. Those two losses, the stop rate was 47.3%. The opponents were scoring over 3 points per drive. Then against Kentucky, you were at 70%, right? And I think the clear causation here to force this type of correlation between what it's like in wins and losses has been tackling.
Absolutely.
This is not an LSU offense that loves to run the ball by any means. If anything, they completely abandoned it against Ole Miss. And this sometimes is their substitute for running the ball on first down. A lot of screen passes on first down. A lot of screen passes to guys like Aaron Anderson, who is a speedy playmaker. I put Brandon Cisse kind of as the one who's in that matchup, but we'll probably see a lot of Jalen Kilgore there too, because he will also play some nickel. But those two players, in terms of how they're able to limit guys like Aaron Anderson, I'll throw Berrien Brown and Xavier Thomas in that mix too. If they're able to, like you said, limit that, then maybe this defense has a chance to be able to limit LSU's offense to the point where you only have to score 16 or 17 points to win this game on Saturday night.
Man, this is a really interesting case, and I think we need to come back to this when we do our game prep for tomorrow, because the way this plays out in reality is you do your job on first and second down, success rate, all the nerd analytics work in your favor. Now you have him on 3rd and 10, and it's ready to go. The guys blitz. They make a good play. They make Garrett Sussmeyer throw the ball. He gets it out for a 7-yard pass, which is the ADOT right there. Boom. If you tackle him, it's 4th and 7. It's 4th and 3. You get him off the field. Stop rate, done. If you don't tackle him, he slips out the back door. It's another first down, and as those numbers played out, you end up losing those types of games. this is a very important number that I wasn't aware of. We need to come back to this.
Yes, absolutely. We'll definitely revisit this because I think that does tell a lot of the story of this South Carolina team so far, just after 5 games early on in the season. We'll go back to Garrett Nussmeier because we talked about his ADOT, average depth of target, as a passer, being lower this year than it has at any point in his LSU career. And as a matter of fact, 20% of his passes this year have been screen passes. And LSU picks up about 6 yards per attempt on those plays. Even with Caden Durham being healthy, Dawson Iserloh from ESPN Southwest Louisiana joined us yesterday and said they're expecting Caden Durham to play. But that will be, even with a healthy Caden Durham, probably LSU's main first down look on Saturday if the Gamecocks are able to stuff their run game.
Yeah, and LSU hasn't shown a particular stubbornness about the run game. They've been willing to abandon it and go to the screen game, which may frustrate some people, or some people see it as a sign of adaptability. And even in the screen game, a screen game is fine. I don't care if you complete the ball 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage. Awesome. Guess what we still have to do? Tackle. So it feels like that's going to be a huge storyline as this game plays out.
So much of this game, because it sounds so simple, right? And defensive football can be so much of preparing for what an offense can do and whether or not you can handle certain actions an offense employs out on the field. But as complex as it may be to game plan for a game like this, it also does just boil down to doing a lot of the fundamental stuff. It's not an accident, right, that you're 0-2 when you're missing 15 tackles a game or missing at least 14 tackles. Not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence you're 3-0 whenever your stop rate is north of 72. None of that is coincidental, right? And a lot of that all has to do with just how well you tackle and limit what teams do after the catch. Last one here, too. Maybe the most interesting player on this LSU offense, Preston Thorne, Trey'Dez Green. He doesn't have a lot of targets this year, but he's LSU's 6'7", 240-pound tight end. He is a power forward.
Okay.
And here's how they deploy him. They post him up.
Yeah.
Like you would do a power forward in the early 2000s, like a la Kevin Garnett, right? I mean, they will post him up in the red zone, in the end zone, and basically make cornerbacks, nickel corners, play one-on-one. Most of his snaps are in the slot. He only has 6 targets this year, and from the games that I have watched, I have counted at least 3 of those targets being actually in the end zone themselves. So when LSU gets in the red zone, how do you defend such a unique archetype of player who's there basically to become Charles Barkley and get rebounds?
Yeah, that's a quandary because that's definitely difficult to do with the way the game's officiated. The likelihood of them calling a pass interference is extremely high, even though he is initiating contact. My best defense would be try not to get into that situation because that is a very difficult spot for a defensive back to get into.
And now he doesn't have a ton of catches on the season. Again, only 6 targets and really only has 2 receptions. One of them was a touchdown in that Clemson game, but they went to him twice in the end zone in that Clemson game because they feel good about his 6'7", 240-pound frame. Just being able to post somebody up. Again, still really raw, a really young player. This is only his 2nd year in the program. Young player, really good size. He has pretty much been just a red zone target for them, but can be a matchup problem because of what that size is. We like to, on Thursdays, look at the game through the scope of running the ball, something that neither of these offenses have done really well. How much of an impact is running the ball going to be in the game on Saturday? We'll break that down next.
Ball game. Norris out of the gun, going to run himself straight at the middle. Here's Norris in the wide open at the 50. Going to try to outrun him at the 35, 30. They can't get him at the 15. 10, 5. Touchdown Carolina. Touchdown Lenoris Sellers. 75 yards.
You know, I should be coaching.
I think you chose properly. Give it to number 16. And in one play, he heads towards the cockpit and outruns.
Oh, that was Lenoris Sellers, a 75-yard touchdown run that really broke the game open a little bit in the game last season. A massive play for the Gamecocks. To me, that was one of the plays where I was like, "Oh, this is real. They have a chance to really do this." The running game in that game, Preston Thorne really helped Carolina out. Now, that was one of the first games that we saw Lenoris Sellers open it up in the passing game really well and really be able to see him as a legitimate dual-threat quarterback. That was one of the first, wow experiences I remember having from Lenoris Sellers in that game, and that run had a lot to do with it. And if you go back and look at that game, too, Lenoris had 88 yards on 10 carries. Rocket Sanders had 143 yards on 19. Both fellas averaging well over 7 yards a touch and combined for 4 rushing touchdowns. That feels like a long time ago now because the traditional run game and the quarterback run game do not feel like they have been the same this season. I have a feeling if you want a chance to be able to win this game on Saturday, you've got to get closer to that than what you've been doing this season.
Give me that number again, Lenoris carries last year.
10 carries for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns.
That's the baseline. That's the baseline minimum amount of carries that Lenoris needs to have on Saturday. I would like a little bit more, as I keep saying. Put a little bit of extra chicken on my bowl, please. But 10 is the baseline minimum carries that Lenoris needs to have, especially when you look at the idea that we don't have a Rocket Sanders this year.
No. And that's the big glaring factor, right? Rasul Faison's had some plays, but you're not seeing enough from the offensive line unit to get a lot of push. The run blocking has not improved from last season, and that hurts a lot. And you're playing a defensive front that is really good. It's made up of some incredibly talented transfers, some of the more highly coveted players in the portal, guys like Patrick Payton from LSU, Jack Pyburn from Florida. They've got some dudes on the defensive line. And then, of course, we've talked about the 2 main linebackers a lot this week with Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks, all-American-type players who are aces in stopping the run game. It's going to be hard. And I'll be willing to concede right now that you're not going to be able to run the ball for a large total in this game. Can you do it well situationally? That's my big thing. Can you just do it well situationally on like a 3rd and 2, a 3rd and 3? If you're electing to run the ball, can you at least power run enough in those short yardage to go situations to be able to continue to move the chains, right? That would be my bare minimum in this game because you're playing a team at least on the other side who also is not running the ball particularly well at all. Caden Durham only averaging about 53 rushing yards per game this season in the games in which he's actually played, and of course half of those have come against opponents like Louisiana Tech in Southeast Louisiana.
Yeah, when you look at the numbers, both the teams are in the bottom third. We are holding up the bottom of the third. As far as yards per rushing, right? If I have this correctly, I believe we're 130th, and they are 94th. So neither team can claim that they are able to run the ball. But Elijah, you just kind of made Brian Kelly's argument. That's what Brian Kelly was telling those mean, angry reporters that were being all mean and nasty to him. He was saying, "Hey, we don't run the ball, but we ran it one time, and that's enough." I don't know if I believe that.
I mean, we ran it well one time. Yeah, sure, Brian. Yeah, the overall health of your offense still isn't very good because you're still 40th in FBS in terms of SP plus numbers on offense. It's still not very good. And I think the lack of ability to run the ball is kind of what limits both of these offenses, which is why I think this game, too, when it comes to which offense is just able to score enough points to win this game, assuming no defensive touchdowns are scored, really that element is maybe the topsy-turvy element that we have in this game because Garrett Nussmeier does like to put the ball in harm's way. I'm not putting it out of the realm of possibility there's a pick six at any point in this game because of that, but the 2 quarterbacks are the ones who are going to have to really lead their team in this effort. And the one thing that you do have in that quarterback versus quarterback thing is that your quarterback can run the ball really well. And maybe leaning into that is something that can at least give the overall health of your offense that element of a run game that would be required enough to at least make it out of here alive.
Yeah, and the quarterback run allows you to neutralize Harold Perkins, because you +1 in the run game, as we've heard earlier. And what that means is now, instead of you having to give the ball to a running back where effectively the quarterback is not part of the play, now you have an extra running back available to block. Maybe that's Harold Perkins Jr. blocking. Maybe you're ISO in weeks, whatever you want to do, but you have an extra person to take on the running game, and you just create a numbers imbalance in your favor.
And that's going to have to happen. I mean, when we do the run the ball segment where we look at both teams' running games, this might be the one where, I mean, just looking at some of it moving forward, really Alabama's run game's not very good. Oklahoma's run game isn't. I mean, Alabama's was good this past week. It hasn't been very good consistently in some of their bigger games this year. Jam Miller now just being healthy kind of helps that out, but there's not a ton of offenses this month that you're going to look at and be like, oh, they're aces at running the ball. Mm-hmm. So maybe what we see on Saturday can be a reflection, or I guess maybe a preview of what we end up seeing the next few weeks. Hour number 1 is in the books. Hour number 2, we'll start it off with me being in the land of voodoo in mystery, the state of Louisiana, which means it's time to exorcise some demons. We'll do that starting next.
Hey guys, feeling like you lost your edge? Maybe brain fog's got you struggling to focus? Maybe you're working out and you're not getting the results that you used to? Well, there's a reason for that you're not feeling like yourself, and it might be low testosterone. And Dr. Dan Boatnight will get to the bottom of it. This isn't some faceless online program. Dr. Boatnight personally tailors your treatment program based on your labs and symptoms at the men's clinic. You can reclaim your drive, your energy, and your focus. At the men's clinic, you'll find a non-threatening environment that's comfortable and open to hearing your concerns. And here's the best part. Your initial consultation with Dr. Boatnight and your T-level check is absolutely free. You have nothing to lose and only your best self to gain. So don't wait. Call them at 803-875-MENS. That's 803-875-MENS. Or you can find them online at mensclinicsc.com. That's mensclinicsc.com.
What we're kind of doing a Monday on a Thursday this morning. A few accidents out there that we need to let you know about. Two Notch Road at Oakway Drive. Also Raven at Two Notch. Percival at Screaming Eagle Road. Nazareth Road at Highway 6. Mount Vernon Church Road at Bookie Richardson Road, an accident there. And I-26 westbound at the Chapin exit 91. Forecast a little bit different than it has been recently, but we'll take it. Basically mid-70s for the next several days. 74 today with some wind. 73 tomorrow. 76 on Saturday and Sunday. So beautiful weather, a little more fall-like, perfect state fair weather. 68 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. I am live from Louisiana, from Baton Rouge for game week between the Gamecocks and the LSU Tigers, presented by Forest Lake Travel and my pal Daisy Miller, who made sure to get me here in one piece and plan everything out. That way I didn't mess up travel plans. So shout out to Forest Lake Travel and Daisy Miller for that. It's time to exercise some demons because, again, I said I'm here in Louisiana. Voodoo is everywhere. I can sense it. I kind of want to make a voodoo doll. And it may or may not be Falcons related. But I might be interested in learning the dark arts. But while I'm here, there's a lot of supernatural. I figured no better way to kick off my time here than maybe to try to exercise some demons of our own, especially in this matchup. Again, South Carolina has not beaten LSU, I believe, on the road in Baton Rouge since 1994, if I'm not mistaken. That was the last win over LSU. And maybe, but yeah, last win over LSU, period, right? That was before my lifetime. I have not been on planet Earth. I've seen a lot of things in my 30 years of existence, guys, but I have never seen a Gamecock team beat LSU in Baton Rouge in a game of American football. But maybe history changes itself. But we have to do so. In order, what does Matthew McConaughey say in the Lincoln commercials? In order to go forward, we must go backwards. So let's revisit that game from last year. More specifically, Preston Thorne, what were things that can be learned from it?
Well, let's do this. Since we're here, let's just go ahead and put it on the table. Everybody take a deep breath. Jen, can you hit the cut, please? This is the moment that we all have to face it, embrace it, and then erase it. Here we go.
Over, guys. Get a turnover.
Taylor goes left side. Snap it back. Here comes Carolina. Nussmeier, quick throw. The coverage is picked off. E-man worried on the near sideline. Got some blockers. There's the speed. 40, 50 flag on the play. 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Carolina. Hold on, though. 5 flags thrown back at the line of scrimmage.
I think I think it's a good call on 4. I think Kennard, I believe, is the guy that turned around and it's not smart, guys, if that's him. And I hope I'm not accusing him too quickly.
You think it's late on the quarterback?
No, I don't think so. I think it was more.
Well, Nussmeier's going to the sidelines. He doesn't like it.
It could be, but I thought it was blocked after the interception. I thought it was a bad block then, but it could be on Kennard. I don't know.
Oh, Tommy. Oh, Tommy Suggs. Yes, it was. That Nick Emenwari pick 6 was negated by a personal foul on Kyle Kennard hitting Garrett Nussmeier.
And it was pretty.
After the interception.
And rewatching it, it's like, oh, yeah. No, it was indisputable.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yes, it was a thing. Yes, Garrett Nussmeier may or may not have gotten his award for his Emmy for Best Actor in a SEC midday game. Yes, he may deserve that, but it was warranted. Yes, I guess so.
It was, at least if anything, avoidable.
Correct.
And it was coachable. If we want
Correct.
to talk about learning some things from that game.
For sure.
Notice how after that game, that was very early on, that was game number 3 of the season. Every other game after that, when South Carolina picked off a pass, whenever the quarterback was involved on the return, they would have their hands up. They would run in front of them, put their hands up, right? Like they made sure that that was not going to happen again. That happened countless times throughout the season because, yes, we would know because that South Carolina defense picked off many a quarterback in the 2024 season. So that was something that they were able to learn from it. Is it one of those things that's, yes, by the book, maybe a penalty? Yes, but you don't love it right there. And obviously that was a big source of controversy in that game. Ultimately, we didn't realize it at the time, right? But that was the play that ultimately kept South Carolina out of the college football playoff, which makes that loss sting even more, right? Because then you eventually see what you do the rest of the year, and of course there's the butterfly effect of, well, if that call does go your way, are you as successful in the last 6 weeks of the season? I don't know. We'll never know. But ultimately, you look at the whole resume, you look at the season, you look at where you were in relation to how close you were to the college football playoff, you can reasonably pinpoint that play as the reason as to why you were not playing CFP football in the month of December. It's time to get that one out.
Got to get it out.
But you know what? I am a person that does believe in karma. I think, if you do good stuff, things come your way. If you have bad luck, you will eventually receive good luck, which is why one of my winners this week on Tuesday morning was karma, because the Kansas City Chiefs lived and died by the sword of one-score football games all season last year to the tune of going 11-0 in said games. Squeaked by. But you know what? They got beat in the Super Bowl because it wasn't a one-score game. They squeaked by, just kept squeaking by. And a lot of the warts they had as a team were covered up because they were winning those one-score games. But you knew that wasn't completely replicable long-term. Well, right now, they're 2-3. And guess what? All 3 losses have come by one score, including a miraculous stumble touchdown at the end of the game on Monday night against the Jacksonville bleepin' Jaguars. Karma can be a thing. Is football karma a thing? We might learn on Saturday night, because that was a bad break. Do you get a couple of good breaks in this game that can maybe be a little more fortuitous and help you win a game that you really have to have?
Fortuitous, nice word.
I love that word.
That being said, that was a bad break. But also, when you go back to that game, you still had a chance to win at the end of the game. You missed a field goal. It was a long one, but you missed one. And also, oh yeah, by the way, your starting quarterback gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So there were 3 probably almost, if any one of those 3 things happens in a game, maybe you don't win the game. But if all 3 of them happen and you still have a chance to win, that's why that game probably, obviously, and we're doing an exercise here. We're putting it all on the table so we can move forward. That's probably why that game hurt some more, for all the reasons you just laid out, and then for all of the things that actually did go wrong, still having an opportunity. You would like to say, if we're going based on your law of karma, you would like to say that all 3 of those types of things can't happen again. You hope not.
Yes, and that maybe, statistically speaking, you are a little luckier in this matchup. And, of course, the team's different. The defense especially got a makeover by virtue of just having so many players go to the NFL. So that a lot of the matchup stuff's different. LSU looks different on the defensive side of the ball because of what they were able to add. Last year was a 36-33 ball game. And if Alex Herrera hits that field goal, we're going into overtime tied at 36. It's a lot of scoring, right, against a South Carolina defense that was really good. Well, LSU's offense is not as good as it was at that point last year. Their defense is significantly better. South Carolina's offense, not as good as it was in that game last year. And defensively, better, I would say, than what that performance showed last year. For just taking that game, defensively, they have been better by virtue of not giving up 36 points at any point this season. So things are going to change from a lot of matchup perspectives, but maybe you're hoping, as maybe a believer in football karma, that this thing can change out a little bit differently.
Yeah, the only consistent matchup, as you was going through that, with all of the variables, the only consistent matchup is Brian Kelly versus Clayton White. That's the only consistent matchup that we can carry over from last year to this year. Who's the OC for LSU? I'm forgetting his name.
That'd be Joe Sloan.
Yeah, Joe Sloan. But Brian Kelly is the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
That's the only really, because, obviously Mike Schuler versus Blake Shapen. That's
Blake
not
Baker.
Blake Baker. I'm sorry, that's not a thing. Because he wasn't the OC last year, so that's a little bit different. So I guess going back to pinpoint what actual matchup maybe you can carry over from last year is the Brian Kelly versus Clayton White matchup last year. And as you just stated, it wasn't Clayton White's best game, but also Garrett Sussmeyer was a different dude in that game than he's been all year this year.
Thinking back on it, from the LSU games I was able to watch last year and really study, was that Garrett Nussmeier's most impressive game?
Absolutely.
I think you got the best version of him in that game.
100.
And one thing that
when he gets drafted, there will be throws from that game that will be on his tape. I mean, he made matter of fact, the touch after we had the pick six negated, the throw that he made to score the next touchdown is incredible. And he made some throws during that game that are going to propel him to the NFL. But he has not been that guy this year.
No, he's a completely different guy. And that's the one thing where I'm like, if you want to look at what some of the few elements of similarities between the environment of last year's game and the football environment of this year's game, Garrett Nussmeier's ability is not one of those. Because, again, reports are that he's been dealing with an oblique injury, which might maybe explain his lack of zip on the ball. When we had Dawson Iserloh on yesterday, he said that's one thing that people have noticed, and one thing that they found the most concerning is that the ball just looks differently coming off his hands, and that can be part of the injury part, right? So physically, he might not be as good as what he was when these teams played last year. He can get better on as the season goes, but as we sit right now on October 9th, you can't say that the 2025 version of Garrett Nussmeier is anything comparable to what we saw in the September of 2024 version of him, where that is maybe the peak that we have seen him. That is maybe his magnum opus performance, was that game against South Carolina on the road. But there's still one thing that he does do that is the exact same as last year, and that's his ability to put the ball in harm's way. That interception, not the best read. He loves throwing it into coverage, right? Decision-making is not going to be one of his skill sets and traits when we talk about him as an NFL quarterback of what translates, right? That's something that's going to have to be coached out of him at the next level. So maybe if you can take advantage of being a little lesser from a physical standpoint because of that injury and continue to take advantage of his ability to put the ball in harm's way, and if you get a couple of turnovers in this game and at least help your struggling offense out by giving them short fields, then maybe that's where you see the football karma come in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of times, like everything else, you got to make your own luck. And so you can't go out there and, lay an egg. You got to be in the right positions. You have to be able to make a play when the play is presented for you, when he does give you those opportunities. So a lot of times, bad teams aren't lucky, right? That's not how it doesn't work. It doesn't ever work like that. Good teams tend to get all the luck, and that's how karma goes. Luck goes as far as athletics are concerned.
And they make their own luck.
Exactly. Middle Tennessee did not have good luck last night for very good reason.
Because they are bad.
Yes.
Because they are a bad football team.
It's kind of how it goes a lot of times. So a lot of times when you accuse teams of being lucky or having the karma on their side or whatever the case, they usually are making those opportunities. And so when an opportunity presents itself on Saturday, which it will, can we take advantage of them?
See, me, opportunistic. Maybe out of all the things that we talk about this game on Saturday, the most important might be being opportunistic. And we've seen this defense do that at times this year, right? Against Kentucky, you're opportunistic by returning a punt for a touchdown, returning an interception for a touchdown, getting short fields. You were very opportunistic against Virginia Tech when Kyron Drones decided to make a really bad decision on a throw in the end zone. Fred Johnson was in the right place at the right time to help pick that bad boy off. Like, there are instances in these games where the defense has been opportunistic, and Garrett Nussmeier is going to give them chances to be opportunistic in this game. Whether or not they take them can be what keeps LSU's point total from being north of 20 or south of 20. And when your offense struggles and you're playing against a defense like this on the road, that can make a world of difference about how we're viewing this game going into the final 15 minutes or so. But coming up next, it's the early game morning meeting where we continue giving you updates over the Major League Baseball playoffs, including Jen Jensen's Cubbies maybe keeping themselves around.
Fly the
for
W.
one more day. We're going to fly the W next.
All right, y'all, we are deep into sports season. This is the fall. Fall sports equinox is on the way. What are you waiting for? Call the folks at Integrated Media so you can get your outdoor setup ready. October is a perfect month to take advantage of all these opportunities. You can get Samsung Terrace TVs that are waterproof, Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors, or control all your devices from just one remote. Doesn't matter what you have playing. You can have the playoffs going. You can have college football. You can have NFL, WNBA, which Asia is about to wrap this thing up here shortly. All of that can be playing on your televisions outside with the folks from Integrated Media. So you need to call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com.
Still a bit busy this morning. Two Notch Road at Oakway Drive, Raven Road at Two Notch Road, Nazareth Road in Lexington at South Lake Drive. Also, one more accident to make you aware of, and that's Percival Road at Screaming Eagle Road. Really pretty nice, a little more fall-like this week. It's going to be windy today, 74, 73 for your Friday. Now, tonight into the tomorrow morning, it's going to be a little bit cooler. Might be jacket weather more so because the overnight low is going to be about 55. But really great middle 70s throughout the weekend. Beautiful weather on tap, 68 currently.
I'm watching on the YouTube stream right now. I can see Jen Jensen. She brought in a flagpole into the producer studio, and she's putting up a W flag on it. And she's ready to fly it because for the early game morning meeting, this is going to be her favorite postseason update yet. Hit it, Jen.
Good morning. Good morning. Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day. Let's go. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
Oh, it absolutely will, because when Jen Jensen woke up this morning, she had two songs stuck in her head, Go Cubs Go and the Good Morning song, because it was a great morning. That song sounds how Jen Jensen felt waking up this morning.
That's how I felt going to bed last night. I tell you what, they made me nervous. I was doing a lot of pacing last night because, we get down to the top of the ninth, and the Brewers, I think, were basically bases loaded. Yeah, we just had to make us nervous. And, I learned,
as your heart rate recovered.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, finally. But I slept pretty well. I think it's almost like having an extra workout. So
it kind of is. It's cardio.
Oh, my gosh. Truly. Didn't need to work out yesterday.
Watching your favorite team play playoff baseball is a form of cardio on its own. And if you missed it last night, the Chicago Cubs beat the Milwaukee Brewers 4-3 to extend the series to a fourth game, the last one in this series in Wrigley. And if they win, it will not be the last game of the entire series, because then they will go back to Milwaukee for a game 5. Awesome performance. Michael Busch is having an incredible postseason.
Mm-hmm.
He has been really, really good. And he did it again yesterday, homering. So the Brewers get on the board first, and I've got score updates on my phone for this game because we're going to be talking about it. And the plane lands, and I can take my phone off airplane mode because I'm a good soldier on that airplane. And then I get that first notification that the Brewers scored, and I'm like, oh, well, this might be a bullpen game for the Cubbies with Jameson Taillon on the mound. It might end up having to be a bullpen game. And then immediately, Michael Busch homer update right after that. And then a Pete Crow Armstrong RBI that made it 3-1. I said, oh, looks like we're going to have one more game in this series. I could feel it at that point.
And honestly, weren't really expecting many home runs because the winds were kind of blowing in. So usually that kind of negates the opportunity. So when I was seeing them, and they had a couple that went foul that it's like that was so close and too close. But we went through a lot of pitching last night. I mean, not totally exhausting our pitchers, but we did go through several pitchers.
Yeah, enough to the point where there are no probable pitchers on ESPN for either team right now. So by counting right now, Taillon, Pomeranz, Palencia, Kittredge, Thielbar, and Keller, the Cubs pitched 6 guys last night, and the Brewers pitched also 6 guys last night. So both teams having to dig in deep to find some pitching here for a pivotal Game 4, one that could either see the Brewers advance to the NLCS or see the Cubs extend this thing to a Game 5, which we are going to get a Game 5 because yesterday the Tigers beat the Mariners 9-3, so we'll be going back to Seattle for one more to decide this series. The Tigers, an interesting team. Now, in terms of teams that we were looking at in the primer as to who we might be cheering for in this playoff run, the Mariners high on my list because they have not been to an ALCS since 2001. Tigers also on the list too because they've been so bad for so many years. They had that run in the 2010s when Miguel Cabrera was really good. Never got over the hump. I think in my lifetime they have been to two World Series appearances and have lost to the Giants and the Cardinals. That was a team, too, this year that was maybe the best team in baseball up until maybe June or July. Then after the All-Star break, they kind of fell apart and squandered a 15.5-game lead against the Cleveland Guardians. Didn't win the division, beat Cleveland in the playoffs, and now they're 1 game away from playing for the AL pennant. So that game, I believe, is going to be on Saturday or Friday. Yeah, because they will not be playing tonight. But if they win, the winner of that game will face the Toronto Blue Jays. Sorry, Nick Harvey. Sorry, Jack Veltri. The Yankee season went to an end last night. 5-2 loss to the Blue Jays at Yankee Stadium. And the AL East champions, the Toronto Blue Jays, are playing for a pennant. And for some of the old school baseball lovers, as Preston Thorne has pointed out, you might remember the last time the Blue Jays were in a World Series.
You know, I had to send a text to Corey. I'll put him on the list of the ones that we're sending our T's and P's to, along with Nick and Jack, because my brother is a Yankee fan, so I had to send him a brotherly love text last night. So shout out to you, Corey. Love you. Glad that's moved on. But yeah, man, if you haven't been paying attention, you haven't been locked in, and unfortunately, Bo Bichette is not playing. But if you know that Bichette name, you're like, okay, I think that sounds familiar from a dude from the Rock. That's because it is. It's Dante Bichette's son. And oh yeah, Vlad Guerrero Jr. is playing, and he's really good. And also a really cool story. And I was talking to Elijah about this yesterday. He's not poor or broke by any means. He makes a lot of money for playing for the Toronto Blue Jays. But Vlad Guerrero Jr. did have an opportunity to join one of the evil empires this past year, and he elected to stay in Toronto. Again, he's getting paid a lot of money, so he's not crying poor, but it was pretty cool.
He's not eating ramen noodles.
Right, but as a sports fan, it was cool to see a player who came up through the organization choose to stay with the team.
And that is a really cool story because there's a lot of those players, like the core players, like you said, like Bo Bichette, one of the core players, Vlad Jr., one of the core players. A lot of those guys are homegrown talents, right? Like they drafted them, and it's been a process building thing with them for about the last 5 years, and now it's come to fruition where they're one series away from getting to play in the World Series, and it does kind of show that the process can work if you do it correctly. And for the Yankees, another offseason of having to wait and see what if.
And when you think about the last time they won the World Series was 1993.
Please don't.
Oh.
Hanging with Mr. Cooper was on TV. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Evening Shade. Murphy Brown.
Murphy Brown, yeah.
Home Improvement was still original run. The Wonder Years. Doogie Howser.
Solid lineup right there.
I'm just saying. See them all. Yeah, so just a few things that it's been that long.
Yeah, and also, for any Braves fans out there, you might remember that too.
Yeah, tough TV spot. Shows that I was not alive to see aired live.
You know what? You weren't alive to see it, but guess what? Tim Allen still in the game.
Oh,
the man is the journeyman of sitcom dads.
He truly is, and his current one's good. I'm enjoying it.
He keeps them going, man. That dude is a monster at the sitcoms.
You want to know how you're good? You're good at your craft is when you become like the quintessential sitcom dad, and now you're the quintessential sitcom granddad.
Yeah.
It's wild. I was like, look at that, another one.
Yep. Yeah. He just keeps cranking them out.
Okay.
Impressive.
Oh, he does. And the Philadelphia Phillies last night, to round this thing out, cranked out a few homers and played really well. I thought they were toast. They lose the first 2 games against the Los Angeles Dodgers. They have to go back to L.A., and I said, okay, you can put a fork in them. This thing, they're done. It's absolutely over. Not so fast, my friend. The Phillies end up taking down the Dodgers 8-2, and they will at least force a Game 4. Now, if they can send this thing back to Philly for Game 5 is a whole other story, but as of right now, they live to see another day. Coming up next, it's the early game underdog challenge. And boy, was it a productive weekend for us in the underdog challenge.
Woohoo!
Some standings have shifted. We'll give you an update and we'll make our picks next.
Are you looking for a countertop for your kitchen or bath? Maybe just wanting to update your yard with some hardscaping? Well, if so, I have the place. Carolina Stone Craftsman, just outside Columbia in Chapin. They do understand kitchen and bath projects. They can be a significant investment, and that's why delivering the highest quality and most affordable granite, marble, and quartz while providing the best customer service is paramount to them. It's simple. Great countertops with no compromises. You need to visit them to see what I mean. Check out their beautiful showroom indoor and outdoor and see all their creativity. You're not only going to be impressed, but definitely inspired. We first started working with Carolina Stone Craftsman when we remodeled a couple of bathrooms, and I'm telling you, the experience was fantastic. If you're in the market for countertops for your kitchen or bath, I encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman and tell them Jen Jensen sent you. I love it. They're family owned and operated just beyond Columbia in Chapin, and I assure you they are beyond your expectations. Check them out online, carolinastonecraftsman.com. Heavy traffic I-26 eastbound between Lake Murray Boulevard and I-20. Kind of a standard thing, but a little extra heavy this morning, so be prepared for that. A couple accidents still to make you aware of. Two Notch Road at Oakway Drive. Rabin Road at Two Notch Road. Percival at Screaming Eagle, and Nazareth at South Lake Drive in Lexington. Going to be really nice, pretty much hitting in the mid-70s through the weekend. 74 today and windy, 73 tomorrow, 76 on Saturday and Sunday. So great weather to get outside and enjoy. Maybe head out to the South Carolina State Fair. Got things kicked off yesterday. 68 currently.
All right, it's that time of the week. It's time to make our picks for the early game Underdog Challenge. And y'all, we did it again. Second straight week where everybody got at least one game correct. Jen nailed Patriots at Bills for 7.5 points. Preston nailed Titans at Cardinals. Miraculously, that Titans team coming through for them for 7.5 points. Miraculously, for myself, the Jags giving me 3.5 points with the win over the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. And Team WIS did it again. Went 2 for 2. They are 6-6 on the season. Virginia beat Louisville for 6.5 points. And the Buccaneers took down the Seahawks for 3.5, giving them 10. And now our standings read like this. Team WIS, 43 points in the lead on the season, building a pretty hefty margin here. Jen is in second at 32 points, which is on fire considering I think she waited until week 3 to get on the board, or week 4 really, to get on the board.
Yep.
That has not stopped her because she's getting points in bunches. She's got 32. And then Preston in third at 25, and myself close behind at 23. So a lot of ball game left here to be had.
And hey, let's make a note of the fact that, yes, Team WIS is in the lead, but it's a team.
That's correct.
It is a team.
So really, they have several people making their picks and crafting the best one. So really, just saying.
That's a good point.
We're all doing really well.
It is a brain trust.
Yes.
It is a brain trust. And before we get into the order for this week, we have to give a shout out to our text line winner. That would be Mark. Mark took Florida at plus 6.5 and the Buccaneers at plus 3.5. So Mark went 2 for 2, and Mark was our winner for last week. So now our order for week 7. We're already here at week 7 weeks into the season. Preston will lead us off, followed by myself, then Team WIS and Jen. As I understand, Nick Harvey not in the building just yet. So if they don't get in before the time to pick, we will just move past them and we'll get the pick later.
I'm going. Thank you. I like that. I'm going with the hot hand.
Ooh, always smart.
Could they possibly? May not be as big of an upset, but can they dominate another traditional Big Ten? Give me UCLA.
Never did I thought this year we would say UCLA is playing with the hot hand here. 4 weeks into the season, when they were 0-4 and 0-2 against Mountain West teams, I would never thought to accuse UCLA of playing with the hot hand. But they are on the road against the Fighting Kirk Cousinses of Michigan State, and they are 8.5 point underdogs in that game. One thing I do hope doesn't, if they do not win that game, however, as long as, the coaching staff isn't using travel as an excuse, then I think we can accept whatever result may come from that. That leads us to me, and I will get to go with my number one choice here. A few options that I weighed out, but you know what? I'm currently sitting in between two cats right now, a cat named Po' Boy and a cat named Vu. And I think it is only appropriate that I go with one of my hot hands for the year, and that's the Cat Pudge. in Bowling Green State. Pudge is an icon. He's on the sideline. He wears a helmet. They give him a jersey. Pudge is a part of the team, and they are 10.5-point home underdogs against Toledo. Yes, Toledo is one of the teams that was one of the favorites. Them and Ohio really considered the two favorites coming into the season to win the MAC. Bowling Green State this year played Cincinnati really tough. Cincinnati's proven to be a pretty good team this year. That win has aged incredibly well, like fine wine. Not a win, that performance has aged incredibly well. They've gotten some big wins this year already. They beat Liberty earlier to give me some points. I'm going back to the well and getting Eddie George's team, and he's coaching Pudge. And in Pudge, I trust. So I will take Bowling Green State plus 10.5. Team WIS absent, so Jen is going to be next.
I only have one thing to say to make my pick.
Oh, she's doing it. Jen's doing it. And don't think I didn't think about it. Don't think I didn't think about it. I had it written down. I was like, maybe. How frisky am I feeling? But the South Carolina Gamecocks, as of right now, 9.5-point underdogs on the road to LSU. The game we have been breaking down all week long.
I'll take that action
to do so. Yeah. Jen's like, I'll bite.
Yep.
I'll do it. I'll bite. So South Carolina plus 9.5 at LSU, and that will lead Jen to our first NFL pick.
Oh boy, yeah, I kind of struggled with that one a little bit this week. I've got a couple. I'm gonna go with my home guys. I'm gonna say the Bears, 4.5.
Jen goes
the Commanders. The Bears.
Da Bears on the road.
Underdogs to the Commanders. Yeah. Not sure if it's a wise pick or not, but I'm kind of homering out this week.
Hey, the Bears have played really well. They've played really, really well. And the Commanders, I mean, Jaden Daniels is back, so that kind of changes how we feel about them. But a very winnable game for Chicago, despite being on the road. I still feel pretty good about that. And last year, these two teams played without Ben Johnson calling up the plays and getting the best out of Caleb Williams, and they were a Hail Mary away from winning the game.
Yep. So I don't know. I just feel like something will change.
They were still in it. That takes us to me, and I get to go with my number one option again. Yeah. Ooh, man. Now that it's time, so here's what I do. I rank them on my sheet here, and if, option one's off the board, I mark it off and then go to 2. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Both of them are home underdogs. I'm going to do it because I'm going to be in the house. I'm going to be in the building.
Do it.
It's going to be the first time I will get to see my beloved New Orleans Saints play in the Superdome against the Patriots, plus 3.5. Give me the Saints. Can I get a hoot at on the chat, please? The Saints, I will take them against the Patriots. Home dogs bark the loudest, and I am expecting them to be some barking going on Sunday, mostly because I believe in magic and I believe in a happy ending. So I'm going to be going with the heart here. Give me the Saints plus 3.5 against the Patriots.
I had that one on my list. I had that one on my list of things to take. I don't know what's going on. I talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. You have the best running back in the league, the best offensive line in the league, a quarterback who is not traditionally known for being able to put the game on his shoulders, and yet you decide to run the ball 9 times in a whole game. I don't know what you're doing, Philadelphia. Something seems weird over there. Give me the New York Football Giants as an underdog against the Eagles.
I had that as number 3 on my sheet.
I did too, actually.
Giants at plus 7.5 at the Eagles. Oh, yeah, that one's juicy. That one is really juicy.
And this is more of an indictment on Philadelphia than it is support for the Giants.
I think so too.
That's fair.
I think so too. If I'm not mistaken, they're not at the Eagles. They're hosting the Eagles, so it is a home underdog. A 7.5-point home underdog in the NFL in this type of competition holds a lot of value. So that's one of the reasons why that one was so intriguing to me. And not going to lie, the game that I had number 1, I was originally going to pick, and I was like, you know what? We're pumping the brakes. I was looking at Falcons plus 4.5 against the Bills.
Ooh.
Home underdog. I think the Falcons are a good football team. I think sometimes they just can't get out of their own way. Having that game at home, prime time, maybe a little magic there. I don't know.
Rise up.
I went with the Saints. So here's our recap so far. Preston has UCLA plus 8.5 at Michigan State, and the Giants plus 7.5 against the Eagles. I have Bowling Green State plus 10.5 against Toledo, and the Saints plus 3.5 against the Patriots. Jen has South Carolina plus 9.5 at LSU, and Bears at plus 4.5 at the Commanders. And Team WIS, we are awaiting picks. Make your picks with us, 803-404-6100 on the Firehouse Subs text line. But coming up next, we're going to put some folks on the grill. That's next on the early game. Yes. When it comes to doing the fundamentals, right? In football, we talk about blocking and tackling. But for your home, some of the fundamentals of just making sure everything runs smoothly, or your business, making sure you can keep yourself open, is if it's well protected with a roof and well waterproofed. And there's no better decision to go, if you need help with that, than with Mid-State Roofing, because they've been doing this for nearly 30 years. They've been that proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and that proven history is honestly your assurance that you will get the proper advice and the results. Most importantly, the results, right, to the specific needs of your facility, because not every facility has the same roofing and waterproofing needs, and they are versatile enough to be able to handle whatever problems may arise. Doesn't matter if it's high-rise or hospitals, or the job is manufacturing to industrial. They design and install bonded systems with that protective guarantee, something that everybody is looking for when it comes to protecting your home. If you have a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. 803-356-1919. Oh, man, do we have a busy day of football for you on Saturday. Of course, we'll always have our coverage starting at 2:30. Gamecocks Game Day live from O'Hara's Public House on 131 Main Street in Lexington. Tyler Head and Terry Ford will be hosting that for you. And then we have our traditional watch party at O'Hara's. If you don't plan on getting out of the house, you feel like staying in, but you want to be part of a watch party, we'll be doing our YouTube watch-along as well. I will not be in studio because I will be here in Louisiana, but Tyler Head will be making the trip back to the studio, hanging out with Preston and Jen, and you can watch us on YouTube as we watch and react live along with you. So it's almost kind of like a radio show that is hanging out with you, watching the game between the Gamecocks and the Tigers. But it's 7:45. It's a Thursday, or it's 8:40. Yeah, 7:45 on a Thursday. I don't know what time it is. The time change is killing me, folks. It's killing me. Time zones are weird. It's like being in a time machine. But as we do every week, it's time to put some folks on the grill. Who is cooked this week? And you know what? It may not be his job necessarily at stake right now, but if the season keeps going like this, James Franklin might be cooked. I will say this. I think Penn State's chances at the college football playoff in 2025, that I can definitively put on the grill. And it's getting to where it's getting cooked a lot faster than I anticipated.
Yeah, this is an obvious answer. That game last week was unexcusable. 2 in a row with the high expectations that they have. Big game, James, all of that stuff. The narrative is starting to build. The only problem is I'm not sure who Penn State really thinks they are, or what they, do they think they're going to do better, or they think there's somebody else that can come in and change this thing? I'm not sure how that works, but yes, James Franklin on the grill for sure.
Now what you just alluded to is what makes that situation so intriguing, right? Because you have, since he's been there, you can count on 9 to 10 wins every year. He maybe has the highest floor of any coach in college football outside of like your traditional powers, like what Kirby Smart's doing at Georgia, what Alabama is as a program, what Ohio State is as a program in terms of being coach proof. A very high floor, but they want more. They want more than a high floor. They want to reach the high ceiling. And, when you lose on the road against a team you're favored to beat by 25.5 points, I don't think you're going to reach that high ceiling. And for a team that is as talented as this one is, that has so many NFL draft picks on defense, that had 2 1,000-yard rushers return from last season, and you go and lose that game in a must-have, buddy, it's not looking really good. And it's also not looking really good for my man Mike McDaniel. I mean, he's lived on this grill for a while, and it's at the point, it's like, why won't you cook already? Like completely. Like, I've had you on the grill for like an hour here. Like, why isn't this done? I don't know why they haven't gone ahead and made that decision, because the Dolphins keep falling further and further into NFL obscurity, and it happened again by losing to the Carolina Panthers. Not just losing to the Panthers, blowing a lead against the Panthers.
Blowing a lead, and again, we know who Rico Dowdle is, but to much of the NFL world, they're like, who? What's going on here? That was you don't want to do that. That shot of Mike McDaniel walking into the locker room with his little capri pants, taking his glasses off, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Oh, man. I mean, it looked like a man who was defeated. It really did. And it's like, we love Rico Dowdle here. We know what he can do. But when a backup NFL running back torches you for 200-plus yards, yeah, it's not good. He's cooked. Well, he is in a bad spot.
I'm going to start my grilling session with a statement. I'm fully committed to UNC football and the program we're building here. And I'll throw another statement on top of that. Coach Belichick has the full support of the Department of Athletics and University. Bill Belichick and Bubba Cunningham, cooked.
Oh,
University
man.
of North Carolina football, cooking.
What does it smell like for a Tar Heel to cook?
Tar. It smells like tar.
Yeah.
Yes, char. We've burnt them to a crisp. It is.
So we can call them the Char Heels?
The Char.
Yes, there it is. Trademark that.
Carolina Char Heels and Chapel Bill. Not going well. Not that anybody could have predicted this or seen this, but it's not going well for them amidst a lot of things that are happening. Unfortunately, we will not get to see this because there was a Hulu documentary that was supposed to be played, and they have scrapped plans for that.
Boo.
I'm shocked. Probably Jordan scrapped that. Yeah.
Correct. PR manager in full effect.
I think we know who's responsible for the scrapping of that Hulu documentary. Well, the documentary is not the only thing that was scrapped. The Miami series in football was scrapped. Jeremiah Donati was in studio yesterday on the postgame show to talk about it. We'll hear what he had to say next.
Augusta Highway near Watling Road. We do have a report of an accident there. Hard scrabble at Clemson. I-20 eastbound at Alpine Road and I-26 westbound right there at Highway 378. Also a report of an accident. So a couple areas of caution so far this morning. Mid-70s is what we're going to see in the forecast really for the foreseeable future. 74 today. Going to be kind of windy. Some clouds and 73 tomorrow. But when you get up tomorrow, might need a jacket or something like that because overnight low will be 55. Right now, though, it is cloudy, a little bit breezy, and 67 on 107.5 The Game.
Hour number 3 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we are about to react to some of the things that Jeremiah Donati, the athletic director for the University of South Carolina, said on the postgame show with Jay Phillips and Terry Ford yesterday as he got to make an appearance, talking about a wide variety of things. But one of the leading topics was the news that came out this week. And that is that the series against Miami, the football series, has been canceled. They're scheduled to play in 2026 and 2027, doing a home-and-home. That will no longer be the case. So we'll go ahead and start with Jeremiah Donati talking about canceling the Miami series. This will be cut 20.
Well, absolutely. I think you nailed it. I mean, first of all, the series was scheduled long before either conference was playing 9 games, and so it would have been a great matchup. They were excited to play. We were excited to play. But when you move to the 9 conference games, it's just a lot to ask of your team year in and year out. As you know, this is the toughest league in the country. It's a gauntlet, and you want to put yourself in the best possible position to be in the tournament at the end of the year. And so this was a total mutual decision. Dan called me a few weeks ago, I guess, after the ACC had voted to go to 9, and it was a pretty short conversation. He just said, "Hey, look, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, there's a $3 million buyout in front of that's in the way of this." And he said, "Look, we would prefer to cancel the series as well, given that we're now going to 9 conference games, and they've got an obligation to play a Power 5 as well. We of course, will always play Clemson." And so that's the skinny. That's how it happens. So, obviously disappointing. I know our fans are disappointed, and I think the challenge with any scheduling in college athletics, it's not like the NFL where you've got everyone's playing the same schedule. And if you could line up all 134 schools and they all play the same or similar schedule, I think you'd be fine with that. But what you don't want to do is put yourself at a disadvantage compared to the competition in a league that's already extremely competitive. So that's basically the gist. And, we've got other games on the schedule down the road. That's not breaking news to anyone. And so we're looking at all those and having conversations daily about those games and others. So there's probably more changes coming.
Told you.
That was Jeremiah Donati.
I told you. Somebody has to call first. And he just told us that Graham down the front was like, "Hey, Jeremiah, what you thinking, man?"
Mm-hmm.
Listen, somebody has to just initiate, even though it eventually could get to mutual, somebody has to initiate the conversation.
Yep, and that tells us exactly how that conversation went down. Very disappointing. And I mean, when hearing that too, like, I understand, your league is tough for South Carolina. Like, 9 games, tough in the SEC. Understand, but that's also why you play these games. You're not a member of the SEC because it's easy, right? When this program joined the SEC in the early 90s, you didn't do it because it was going to be easy. You did it because it's ripe with opportunity. I still hate it for both teams, especially for Miami. It makes less sense for Miami, right? The ACC isn't going to provide you more than 3 or 4 games that are legitimate resume boosters, right, for a college football playoff. It's not. And that's why a 10-2 Miami team last year that didn't get to participate in its conference title game ended up sitting at home and watching the college football playoff because the resume wasn't as good outside of it. They even had, maybe their best win of the year was at Florida, right? An SEC school. That game provided them an opportunity, which is why when you hear that, it almost makes no sense for Miami to want to do it. If you're Miami, you feel like you kind of need that game to help boost that resume, and you still have a chance to go to the college football playoff because all you got to do is win your conference, right? If you win your conference, you don't have to worry about it anyway, which is one of the things too that kind of puzzles me about the rationale of not scheduling tough non-conference games or having as many tough non-conference games as possible, because really the most basic roadmap, especially for a team that's in the ACC or the Big 12, the roadmap is just winning your league. And if you don't take care of that, then it doesn't really, matter as much. That game can only help you, right? If you schedule a week non-conference and you don't win your league, What wins do you have to really pin to your resume to get you over the top? If anybody learned that lesson last season, it was Miami, right? Which is another reason, like that's a puzzling thing for me, for Miami to be the one to kind of initiate all of that. But he continued on yesterday, too, when he was on with Jay and Terry, about how to replace the Miami game.
Well, we've got some options. I don't want to name the schools at this point, but they're, it's not going to be Miami, I'll be honest with you. So we're working through. There's about 5 or 6 schools that we've first of all, you've got to see who's available. So it's not like, I don't know that fans fully understand or appreciate this, but it's not like you have your pick of the litter. I mean, first of all, you've got to find to see who is actually available those dates, and then who actually wants to play. And then you've got to negotiate. Negotiate a price to get them to Columbia. So all those things, have to kind of line up. So we should have an announcement soon. I would anticipate by the end of the month. But it's kind of one of those things. It's not you don't have you don't have a total autonomy of the opponents you're looking at.
I can appreciate that statement. I can understand it, but I just would push back a little bit, and I would say, like, everybody's available for the right price. There's not going to be many teams who will decline, especially thinking about the teams which it feels like we're considering. Many of them are not going to decline coming to South Carolina. It's the same thing like when you're getting invitations to a party. Like, you weigh your options. Oh, I think I'd rather do this. I'm just going to have to call and disappoint those other people, and that might slide downhill. But that's how that goes. So I understand, but I would push back against the idea like we don't know who we're going to get to pick. I mean, you probably get to pick who you want.
Your pool of candidates here is a little bit more broad than that, right?
Yes.
Especially when it comes to a buy game, a BUY game, right?
Yes.
Where you're paying for somebody to come to your building. And that just, while listening to him talk there too, it also just reminded me too, at another reason not to want to cancel the Miami series, because the game's already set. It's already in place. This is creating more work for you to have to do. It's costing you more money, right? Because you have to agree to some sort of settlement to not play that type of game. And now you're going to have to pay somebody else a pretty good chunk of change to come in. If I'm not mistaken, South Carolina State got $500,000 to come to Willie B and play earlier this year. And in a landscape of college athletics where you're having to squeeze every penny because of the new hurdles that you have to have when it comes to distributing the revenue amongst your student athletes, it's a lot harder to have to balance all of that. And I would just guess, right, if the money is an issue in a post-house settlement landscape, that having to fork over another $500,000 to $1 million to get a team to play in your stadium, even though you already had a game scheduled or you already had a trip scheduled, doesn't make a ton of sense if you are struggling with cash.
Also, you got to appreciate who you want to invite to this party, because you do not want somebody who's going to come and take your money and then get the dub on top of that. Mm-hmm. So you have to definitely consider that.
Yeah, so Appalachian State not walking through that door.
I don't think so. Nah. I'm sure they have invited themselves, and they'll say, "Oh, we'll do it." Nah, I don't think so. Not you.
It's like, I wonder who I can invite to this party here. Since someone's like, me. Anybody else interested in coming to play with us on a Saturday in September in the future? But now this leads to another interesting point, because part of the rationale of moving away from this Miami series is the fact that you are now playing 9 conference games. You play Clemson every year, so that is a grand total of 10 of 12 baked-in Power 4 conference opponents that you're going to play on a year-by-year basis. So how do you go about scheduling Power 4 opponents, or if you even do it? This was Jeremiah Donati's thoughts on that.
Yeah, we talk about scheduling all the time, and I think in a perfect world, if you had a situation where the Power 4 conferences would only play each other, that makes a lot of sense. That would be incredibly valuable. The fans would love it, and we were all on level playing field. Yeah, the challenge is just what's ironic about all of this is that we select our opponents, and so a lot of times you're selecting these opponents 4, 6, 8, 10 years out, and you don't know how good that team's going to be. You don't know what conference affiliation you don't know what conference they're going to be in. So it's really kind of a strange process if you really look at it from that perspective. But, then the question would become is if we just said as a Power 4, hey, we're just going to play each other, well, then what happens with everybody else? And, those teams are going to want to play us. And so it's a very complicated conversation. We've talked about it, and there's just not an easy solution. Obviously, we're all under contracts with incredible media partners, whether it be Disney or Fox or both in some cases. And so those are, it's not, and then everyone's has a conference affiliation. So it's just not there's no easy solution there. I think we all, envision a world where that would be perfect. You think about the AFC, NFC type concept, where the scheduling is balanced year over year, but we're just not set up that way right now.
Key point right now, AFC, NFC, put a bookmark in that because all the talk has been leading forward to a Big Ten SEC Super Conference. It's coming. It's on the way. Fox, ESPN, it will happen. May not happen next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Be on the lookout.
Makes me sick. Makes me sick. We'll ultimately tear at the fabric of what makes this sport great. But that's another thing, too. Like, in terms of just living in the landscape that we are right now in college athletics, the college football playoff is still designed to have the 4 Power 4 conference champions and the best group of 5 representative. One of the best things about college football is that sometimes you will play a group of 5 team, and those group of 5 teams, if you're brave enough to schedule the good ones, which shout out to Oregon for scheduling Boise State last year, shout out to Florida for scheduling South Florida this year, even though you lost. I appreciate scheduling a good group of 5 or group of 6 opponent, but that gives the committee something to be able to look at in terms of a sample size of what you can do against a power conference. And if you can get that win, or if you're like Boise State last year and you play Oregon down to the final play, then that tells the committee that you can hang, right? Like, you are worthy of getting that coveted spot, which if you don't give them that spot, then those group of 5, group of 6 teams have nothing to play for in terms of what happens at the end of the season. Absolutely nothing. There is no incentive, and if you completely box them out, then you're going to have to do something with them to give them something to play for in terms of a postseason, because they have to have something in an expanded college football playoff. It gives them that sample size, which is why, like, if this game gets replaced with even with an Appalachian State, right, or another Old Dominion or something like that, because Old Dominion, actually, don't look now, they're really good. They're really good. And if the American Athletic Conference wasn't having a banner season, then maybe they could push to maybe be that group of 5, group of 6 team this season. But that's all that kind of goes into it. But I mean, again, you kind of touched on it too. He said the whole AFC NFC thing isn't what we've got right now, but the writing is unfortunately kind of on the wall. Yeah,
it just feels like that's something that they've talked about earlier. But Elijah, this whole conversation reminds me of a lot of the high school type of conversations that we used to have about scheduling, because as much as I coached at a 4-5A school, but we wasn't trying to schedule Abbeville. Like, we're not doing that. They might be smaller, but we don't want to play them. I don't care what the number is. There's certain schools you're not trying to see regardless of their classification. And you ask Billy Napier how much your shout out was worth when they lost to South Florida. It's like, yeah, I know I lost. I'm on the hot seat now, but Elijah Campbell in Columbia thinks it's a great idea.
I'm sure that'd make him feel good. Hey, fellow Cookeville native, Billy Napier.
Exactly.
So I think he can appreciate where I'm coming from here. See, the sin wasn't scheduling the game. The sin was playing like butt.
The sin was losing the game,
right?
Correct.
Yeah, the sin was losing the game, right? You play like butt, you'll lose to anybody no matter who you schedule. I think we forget that sometimes in football. You play bad enough, you can lose to anybody, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's how football works. On Saturday, at the beginning of the year, we thought it'd be a marquee quarterback matchup between Garrett Nussmeier and Lenora Sellers. Garrett Nussmeier not having the same year he did in 2024. What does Clayton White see in him in that LSU offense? We'll hear from the Gamecock defensive coordinator next.
couple of accidents to make mention of. Augusta Highway near Watling Road. Also Church Street at Fred Rast Road. That's in Swansea. Hard scrabble at Clemson. I-20 eastbound at Alpine Road. Still getting that cleaned up. And I-26 westbound right there at Sunset Boulevard. Also a slowdown. 74 today. Going to be kind of windy. And then we kind of just stay in the mid-70s through the weekend. So great weather out there. A mix of clouds and sun each and every day. If you're wanting to head out to the South Carolina State Fair, rock on because the weather will be nice. Overnight low tonight will be 55, so probably going to need some kind of a jacket in the morning. 67 currently.
At the beginning of the season, this game was circled, not just by Gamecock fans or LSU fans, but maybe by the college football-loving public, as a matchup between two of the best quarterbacks in college football, between LaNorris Sellers and Garrett Nussmeier. Well, not the start South Carolina hoped. They're 3-2 going into this game, and LaNorris Sellers has shown the flashes is what made him a highly touted NFL draft prospect. And for LSU, they're 4-1. Still have all their goals ahead of them, but the offense hasn't been the reason they've played particularly well. They're ranked 40th in ESPN's SP Plus offensive metric. Not good to be 40th in the country. You expect to be a little higher, especially with the offenses they've had the last 2 years, but the defense has really carried LSU, a story that's been a little different than in 2023 and 2024. Clayton White, the defensive coordinator for South Carolina, spoke yesterday and was giving his evaluation on what Garrett Nussmeier has looked so far this year and what might be different this year from last year.
Well, I mean, I think last year, I saw it all from him, so it's like whatever, nothing has, it's exactly what I expected from him. He's a very accurate quarterback that can escape the pocket. He does a really good job of obviously controlling the offense and really getting them in the right protection, bringing receivers in to block apex players and blitzers and, throwing the ball out to screens and just, trying his best to make sure he's, blitzing. If they see the safety here, they run the run this way or they throw it away. He does a great job of controlling the thing. I think he does a really good job of all that. His accuracy has always been the best thing that I've seen from him.
So that's what he's seen so far this year. Really, the way Clayton White describes it, and he doesn't necessarily imply this, but if you know what we know about Garrett Nussmeier last year and what he did to South Carolina at Willie B in terms of his downfield passing ability and what we've seen this year, a big difference is this year it does feel like it's more of a playing point guard type of deal of just getting the ball out to a lot of the weapons they have at wide receiver and maybe less throwing the ball downfield, maybe due to the oblique injury, maybe due to the personnel, but also due to maybe some of his decision-making problems that have caused him to throw 17 interceptions the last 2 years.
Yeah. For one, it sounded like Clayton was saying, yeah, I saw it all because he was great against me last year. Yes, I have seen it. I've seen everything that he can do. That was the first part. And then the second part was, if you have to pick characteristics of a quarterback, accuracy and the ability to control the offense are extremely high on the list of things you would want out of a quarterback. So I would probably say that even though he's limited physically, I think because of the injury, he still brings all these other intangibles of being a quarterback, being able to control, work the offense, as you said, sort of work that point guard role where he's still extremely valuable to that team.
And, not all point guards are the same, right? If we want to equate point guard play and quarterback play, some point guards are Steph Curry, where they'll give you 40, right, on any given night, and they are an incredible threat on their own. But sometimes they can be more like Chris Paul, who might have maybe one of his best games you've ever seen from him and only score 11 or 12 points, but he's dropping 18 dimes or 20 dimes, right? Steve Nash won an MVP without putting up ridiculous scoring numbers because he ran the best offense in that league. And sometimes a quarterback's job is to just be able to get the ball out into the hands of your playmakers and let them do a lot of stuff after the catch. And I think that's maybe the offensive approach that LSU has taken this year, considering the numbers and where they're throwing the ball. A lot of it is near the line of scrimmage, a lot more screens. 20% again of their passes this season have been screen passes. Clayton was asked about maybe handling their wide receivers because that's where a lot of their skill set is making plays after the catch. Here's Clayton's assessment of those wide receivers.
They've always done a great job of getting skilled players that can make you miss and guys that can take you the distance. So definitely tackling in the perimeter is going to be huge for both teams, really, definitely for us on the defensive side of the ball. And obviously pursuing to the football because, you're not going to make all those tackles, but when they miss one, hold on for dear life, and then the next two guys come up and let's gang tackle, let's get guys there. Let's not have a lot of solo tackles, but if you are out there by yourself, do a great job of taking care of business while you're out there.
And that's really the thing that in terms of the big difference. Last year, Garrett Nussmeier got you through the air down the field, right? Kyron Lacey was a factor in the game. Mason Taylor, more of a factor in that game. There were a lot of downfield passes, and that really stressed your secondary. Not the best day for South Carolina secondary in that game outside of a couple of the interceptions that they did make in it. There were a couple plays where they did get beat because Garrett Nussmeier made some big boy throws down the field. This year, the offense just looks a little different, and what Clayton said there towards the end of it is the gang tackling and making sure that you are wrapping up and limiting the yards after the catch just going to be more of a factor in this season's game than it was last September.
We saw a great example of this in the NFL on Monday night with the Chiefs and the Jaguars. Chris Jones, obviously all-pro NFL guy, potential HOF, maybe if he continues this track, but he got caught with his pants down, not hustling.
Yep,
on the goal line.
Biggest play of the game.
Biggest play of the game. How are you not pursuing to the ball? Because if you would have just been running to the ball, you probably would have had an opportunity to stop Trevor Lawrence after he fell and stumbled. But no, you were watching, hoping somebody else made the play, and that's what happens. And so that's why the coaches at every level, this is not college, this is not NFL, this is high school, this is Pee Wee League, everybody talks running to the ball because you never know when you may get an opportunity.
And that's where, tackling is an obvious objective in every game, right? Like, if you don't do that, it's a non-negotiable. You don't do that, you're going to get some of the results that we've seen this team have this year, losing 31-7 at home against Vanderbilt, losing on the road against Missouri in what was otherwise a really winnable game that you kind of just let slip. That's how you get a lot of those results, right? It is by not tackling. But a game that can be winnable on the road can be lost if you don't wrap up in tackle. And with the way LSU really replaces a lot of traditional running plays with screen plays and getting the ball out on the perimeter, it's more important now for guys like Brandon Cisse, Jalen Kilgore, Miles Norwood, everybody that's playing out on the perimeter to beat blocks and get to tackles and be able to make those and limit those yards after catch than it has in a lot of games that you've played this season. Now the onus is on them as much as it is on the defensive line, when we normally say you have to stop the run and not let the other team kind of establish any type of run game. One important piece of that too is Judge Collier returning. I'll ask you, Preston, what do you think the impact of Judge Collier returning and being as healthy as he has been since that Virginia Tech game going to mean for this defense?
Yeah, this might give you an opportunity to place Brandon Cisse on their best wide receiver and not have to worry so much about where Brandon Cisse is. You can line them up to the strength of the offenses, maybe in the slot positions where they like to run a lot of those screens, and you put your best tackler in his best position. Overall, it just gives you more depth, but not just depth, somebody who you were planning on starting this year.
Coming up next, our friend Josh Harris drops by as he does every week because it's time to make some picks. It's the Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge coming up next.
Still a little bit busy on the highways this morning. I-26 westbound at Sunset Boulevard. Also I-26 eastbound between Lake Murray Boulevard and I-126. No accident, just sort of your standard slowdown, but just be mindful that it is a little slower this morning. I-20 eastbound at Alpine Road. Also hardscrabble at Clemson. And Augusta Highway near Watling Road. And just a beautiful forecast on the way. Low to mid-70s through the weekend. 74 and windy is what we're looking for today. Now, the overnight low is going to be 55, so may need a little jacket or something in the morning. And then, again, tomorrow's high 73. Right now, it's cloudy. It's a little bit breezy out there. 67.
Get in those cars and go racing. The Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge starts again this season. Winding down, the playoffs enter the round of 8. We will be in Las Vegas. Not we, but the drivers will be in Las Vegas this weekend. Here to join us to talk about that is Josh Harris. It is time to make some picks. But Josh, I'll go ahead and start you off here about giving us a track report for this, because I need to be as informed as humanly possible before I pick yet another loser.
These are becoming fun. We're heading out to Las Vegas this weekend, so we're not racing on the Strip. A little bit outside of town, but
that'd be fun though.
Yeah, I think F1 is going to be setting up there here in a month or so. But no, it's a 1.5-mile track. So, I was looking back through the schedule, and up until Kansas a couple of weeks ago, we had not hit a true 1.5-mile track since back in Charlotte, the 13th race of the year. So we've gone all summer, and then we've got a couple of 1.5 here to wind down the season. Probably the style of track that this generation of car performs the best at, puts on some of the best racing. So I'm looking forward to a great race on Sunday. Great racing all weekend out in Las Vegas, and we'll see now that we're down to the final 8 in the playoffs, which of these drivers steps up and locks themselves into one of those final playoff spots in the championship round at Phoenix.
And let me tell you, in talking about getting into the round of 8, we had a few people who tried to back their way into it almost when they had quite an exciting finish, a little dust up with Ross Chastain desperately trying to get into that round of 8, and I think he and Hamlin, and I believe was it Allmendinger, who actually finished the race in reverse, going across the finish line.
Tried to back his way in, literally, not just figuratively. It was certainly the last stage really from when they took the green flag, just looking at different pit strategies and where guys were. Chastain put himself behind the 8 ball, so to speak, twice in that race with mistakes on pit road, speeding one time and then missing the turn off pit road to stay on course earlier in the race, and both of those ultimately, I think, put him back just far enough that he was in a desperate situation at the end of that race, came down to needing to pass Denny Hamlin. They got that little chicane at the end, and he drove it in there hard, got in, made some contact with Denny, spun them both around, and then he immediately threw it in reverse, but unfortunately the cars behind him were close enough that they beat him to the finish line, and he ultimately finished about 4 spots shy of what he needed. But another time where Ross is proving that he'll do just about anything he can in that car to try and secure a playoff spot, a win, or whatever it is that he needs.
And he definitely was taking some, responsibility for everything, and which he does. He's one that I think really kind of almost takes it on the chin a little bit when he's maybe not performed as well. But that made it for an exciting. I think the racing overall was really good, and it got us down to, again, where we are now in the round of 8, where Hamlin leads in the points, and then it's Blaney, Larson, William Byron. Below the cut line, you've got Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, and Logano, but it's all very tight. I mean, Hamlin's only +8 above that cut line, so it's there's no room for error.
Yeah, there's really not, and I thought the race at the Roval was compelling. You had a couple of drivers, Larson and Bell, trying to give SVG a run, and were out in front of him several times in that race. But ultimately, he proved why he's the best road course racer in NASCAR right now, and pulled away there at the end. But it was some exciting battles throughout the field, especially as we came down to the end. So great way to kind of wrap up the road course section of the year, and now we finish up the season with 4 unique tracks that really help make up all the tracks we run. And you go to a 1.5 miles, you go to a super speedway, a short track, and then kind of a mile intermediate track out in Phoenix. So we're going to see who's the best as we wind down on 4 different types of tracks.
Yeah, I think anything goes right now. Before we get into looking at our picks for Vegas, we thought we'd give you an opportunity. I know that you have an event coming up on the 18th, Trucks and Treats. Tell us a little bit about that for the folks in the Florence-Darlington area.
Yeah, so if you're around, it's the Junior League of Florence the last few years has hosted a kind of a Touch a Truck event, and we've kind of moved that around a little bit to try and capitalize on Halloween and trick-or-treating. So they've settled on the date. It'll be Saturday the 18th from 11 to 2. There's a little bit of information on our website, links back to the Junior League of Florence, but all kinds of big trucks, first responder vehicles. I think they're going to have a crane out here, but just a cool way for kids and adults to come out and see some of these bigger, heavy equipment, just a fun way to get Halloween started, get some candy. So from 11 to 2 on Saturday the 18th, it'll be right in the infield. You can drive in, park, and then come on into the Cup Series garage. It'll be a fun day on Saturday the 18th.
That sounds like fun. What are you going to dress up as, Elijah?
Batman.
Why is this just does not shock me? Preston, if you were going to choose a costume, Elijah,
without a doubt, no hesitation.
You probably can't see him, but you just cracked up Preston. It came so fast.
It was just the response of how it was assured he knew exactly what he was going to do. I am not quite sure.
I'm excited.
But I will have something, but I am not that sure in my costume.
I got you. Josh, what would be your go-to?
I haven't got it that far, but my boys have several costumes. I think one of them's got a banana already, and maybe some sort of a shark. So I might have to steal one of theirs, or you can always just go and try to find an old racing uniform around. See if we got one around here, and I can be an old stock car driver.
There you go. I like that. Yeah, I have no idea what to do. My creativity will kick in probably about October 30th.
That's the best time.
Probably desperation. All right, let's make some picks for Vegas in our Corley Pool Solutions Checkered Flag Challenge. Right now, of course, Reggie in the lead because that's just what Reggie does. But Preston sitting there at 109. Josh at 103. I've actually gotten into 4th. Woohoo! I just crossed the 100 mark. And Belijah at 97. So that means the Belijah team picks first.
Oh, man. We have tanked for the number 1 pick, which just means this is all part of my master plan to finally get to pick Ryan Blaney.
Oh, okay. Blaney is a good call.
I actually don't think I've picked him at all this year. And I was like, what? I got to mix it up. We're doing the insanity thing of doing the same thing that's not working, so it's time to mix it up.
There you go. Well, I'm going to pick somebody who has won there 3 times, has came in second last weekend at the Roval. Preston's like, who's she going to pick? So I'm going to say he secures his spot in the championship for Kyle Larson. Okay, that wasn't his pick, so he's safe there.
That's good.
All right, Josh, going to you. Who do you have for Vegas?
All right, so I had 3. Knowing I was going to pick third, I prioritized 3 drivers. You took my top one, Kyle Larson. I think that's a really strong pick. But I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin. I think he's done well in the 1.5 miles this year, and I think he's ready to secure that berth in the championship round. So give me Denny Hamlin.
That is a solid pick. All right, Preston, you're picking towards the bottom because you're doing so well.
And that's a good thing.
And that is a good thing.
Yeah, when you said wins Vegas, I thought you was going to go with my guy because my guy wins Vegas a lot. Give me Joey Logano.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Logano. And I'll tell you what, he turns it on during the playoffs, and he has a horseshoe in his fire suit, I swear, because that's how he always seems to, just kind of barely make it in, and that's a good pick. All right, so that leaves Reggie, and he has Christopher Bell. So outstanding. Hey, Josh, thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us this week. Look forward to talking about how Vegas goes next week.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Good stuff there from Josh Harris. As always, he's a winner. We tried to pick some winners, but we're going to give our winners for today's show coming up next to round out the early game.
Winners.
Yes, we do, Coach Singletary. We want winners. And it's time for us to give our winners for today's show. And I got to start off with my pal sitting right here to my right. He made an appearance. During one of Jen's traffic reports. And that's Po' Boy the Cat. I knew it'd be put up with a couple of friends. They have a couple of cats. And you know what? Guest on today's show. Without knowing he was a guest on today's show. Po' Boy the Cat.
Po' Boy the Cat is a great name.
Perfect
Phenomenal.
cat for somebody who lives in Louisiana.
Yeah, awesome name. I'll be assuming that you maybe indulged in a po' boy or two.
Oh, many.
Yes, that sounds fair. My winner for today is vengeance, because in 2004, Yankee general manager Brian Cashman came to a verbal agreement with Vlad Guerrero Sr., and then he reneged on that deal, signed Gary Sheffield, for which Vlad Guerrero Jr. vowed that he would never, ever play for the Yankees. And not only will he never, ever play for Yankees, he has eliminated the Yankees for his Toronto Blue Jays. What a really cool story. This man venges when his father was done wrong by the evil empire. What a cool story.
Oh, this is Count of Monte Carlo type vengeance here, playing the long game, truly to be able to stick it to the New York Yankees where it hurt and knock them out of the playoffs in a year where they had World Series aspirations. Sticking with the theme of vengeance, though, I like vengeance as a winner today, because what exercise did we just do to kick off hour number 2 of this show? We tried to exercise some demons. We played the clip of the Nick Emenwari pick 6 that was called back because of the personal foul on Kyle Kennard. We've revisited that. And the game on Saturday between South Carolina and LSU is an opportunity not just to get a win against the top 11 team on the road, not just to show that you can play against the best of the best against the SEC, considering you're getting ready to have a 5-game consecutive stretch where you're playing the top 11 teams in the country, 5 of the top 11 teams in the country. It can give you a sign of life, but it can also give you a sense of vengeance, a little bit of taste of justice for having a game that you believed you won last year and that you believe was stolen from you, that kept you out of the college football playoff. Vengeance is not just a winner today. I'm already giving you a sneak peek to tomorrow. It'll be a winner then too.
I like it. I love this idea. With that being said, I'm going to need everybody to put your sarcasm font here on the winner tag, because we don't often do this, but I have to break tradition, because I'm going to give a quote-unquote sarcasm font winner to Michael Lombardi, the GM of the North Carolina football program, because you know what he tweeted today, or someone from his camp tweeted, or automatically tweeted, or had it robo set up to do? Michael Lombardi, the Daily Coach, how great leaders motivate the already great. 7:23 a.m., October 9th, 2025. Wow. Hey, Mike, maybe not now.
Nope, definitely not now. Not after the reports came out that the head coach that you have piggybacked on for your entire career, who's currently the head coach of the program that you're working with right now, the reports came out that they are already discussing what buyout options might be ahead for them, because this thing has gone off the rails so fast. They're 2-3. They've lost 3 games against their only 3 Power 4 opponents so far this year. All of them have been by at least 3 touchdowns. It has been a circus. It has been a clown show. It has been anything but what they thought they might have actually wanted from this entire stupid experiment right now. And yeah, probably not the best time to be able to tweet that one out.
How great leaders motivate the already great.
You know what leaders do? They do stuff by example. And reportedly, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but reportedly, the North Carolina staff had a hard time reaching Bill Belichick during the bye week. Bill Belichick left town with Jordan Hudson.
Hey, man. Hey, it's a bye week. I'm off. I'll see y'all next week.
I mean, he straight up hit him with all right, y'all be good. I'm on vacation in the middle of the season. Like, come on, dude, as if you did it all. As if you didn't do that all off season.
Oh, man.
What's going on?
Oof.
Nothing says great leadership quite like, if you need me, call me. I won't answer.
Yeah. So if you need to read up on some leadership, you can get that tweet from Michael Lombardi.
Thank you, Michael, for such inspiration that I know you follow every single day. I know that you put these principles in practice and you get the results you want, and I can't wait to be inspired by that and read it later, maybe to help me take a nap whenever we go off the air. Another winner that I have, Gamecock secondary, specifically Brandon Cisse, Jalen Kilgore. We talked a lot about this LSU passing game. We've broken down a ton of numbers this week. We'll do so again tomorrow. But they're going to have opportunities to make plays. Garrett Nussmeier does put the ball in harm's way when he throws the ball down the field. He also loves to throw short passing attacks because they don't have a good running game. That has been a running game substitute for LSU this year. This is going to be a big opportunity for Brandon Cisse and Jalen Kilgore to prove their worth on Saturday. And if South Carolina wants to win this game, they will need big afternoons from those two fellas.
Elijah, I have a quick winner really quickly. The number 4, because Vandrevious Jacobs will now be wearing number 4 as Michael Smith left. And Vandrevious had his eye on it the whole time, and he said, I'm going to be number 4 now. I'm number 4 now.
That man wasted no time. He said, look at me. I am number 4 now. Look at me.
I'm Batman.
I will take your number. Oh, man. Opportunistic. Hey, we need the Gamecocks to be opportunistic on Saturday. Well, Vandrevious Jacobs was opportunistic when Michael Smith left the program. Oh, man. Good stuff today. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri, the extra point. That's coming up next. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. See you then.